Hey, what's up, Internet? Today I'm going to be taking a look at Darkest Dungeon, the new DLC, The Color of Madness, and I might talk a little bit about the Korean translation drama that is occurring at the moment surrounding this game. That will be debated on later. The Color of Madness is the new DLC for Darkest Dungeon, and it seems to be revolving around a comet that has crashed into the farmstead and the countryside surrounding the estate, and it is unleashing unworldly horrors, as this game is known for doing, into the estate that you have to then go and fight. This obviously unlocks a new zone known as the farmstead into the game, which gives a new type of scenario to your mercenaries to fight, where basically it's an endurance test. From what I have seen, you have to fight off waves of enemies where you have to kill a certain amount of them in order for the wave to stop. The enemies will just keep on respawning over and over again, forcing you to kill them until they are no more. Now, I personally like the idea of that. It's definitely new from the dungeon crawl aspect. It's kind of like a personal challenge for your mercenaries where you can build them up to that good old fighting stance, get them at their peak capabilities, and then send them in and see if they can fight off this challenge area. They DLC also brought on a number of new balance changes to the game, including crits now give you certain buffs. It seems like it gives you a random buff whenever you crit that is a slightly better version of a current buff you already have, or a random buff that is just a random buff. Like, congrats, you critted, random buff. Here you go. It also adds the otherworldly horror to the rest of the game, which is a very powerful monster that I learned the hard way. That moves between the other zones on the map week by week. And if you happen to take a mission in that zone where he is currently residing, there's probably a pretty good chance you're going to encounter him inside that dungeon and you will be forced to fight him. This guy is not to be taken lightly. I was just wanted to get some footage of fighting him, and I was like, it won't be too bad. It's just like it's the first time I've encountered him, and it's right at the beginning of the game. How hard could he be? Very hard. The answer is very hard. But other than that, the games, the comet monsters, I suppose, and the otherworldly being, and the things that you fight in the farmstead also drop stardust or comet dust. I'm not sure. There's a lot of references to stars, but it's supposed to be a comet. I don't know. Anyways, it gives you this dust that seemingly doesn't really do a whole lot. I only used it once during the otherworldly being fight just to test it out. It seems like it just gives you a really good buff, but also gives you a debuff that lasts longer. So it'll give you a buff that lasts for like that fight, like that current battle you're in, but then it debuffs you for the entire rest of the dungeon. So it's basically like, holy shit, I need to kill this thing or I'm going to die kind of mechanic. But if I do this, the rest of the dungeon is going to be harder for me. I don't know. I don't see any particular reason to ever use it. It seems kind of out of place for me. It's not my favorite mechanic of the expansion, but it's all right. Now this expansion doesn't seem as big as the Crimson Court was, where that added the idea of epic quests to the game, and I'd say has a far more impact on the game than it. But personally, I didn't really like the Crimson Court that much. I like the idea of the epic quest and the mission that never particularly ever ends, and you just keep sending people back in. But I absolutely hated the blood mechanic. The blood mechanic was so bad. It it was just a nuisance. It wasn't even like it was super detrimental that your players had the Crimson Curse. It was just annoying, and dealing with it was annoying. but I guess it gave you a reason to continually go back into the Crimson Court. I'm mixed on it. This expansion to me seems much more fluid. It doesn't directly impact your gameplay too much. It definitely impacts your gameplay, but the otherworldly being can be avoided if wanted to be. He can also be sought out if you want. If you want to go fight the otherworldly being, take a mission where he's at and go fight his ass. Choices. Choices are always good in games. Unlike the goddamn blood, where you just, oop, vampire, you got bit, you're infected now, and you either basically have to either abandon that character or take care of them for the rest of time. Bad mechanics. No choices, bad mechanics. Overall, I like the DLC. I think it's good. I think it gives the farmstead gives a different change of pace considering the normal dungeon crawl-esque aspect. I like the challenge of it. Um, the Stardust is pretty meh, but it's there if you want to use it. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. Um, I hadn't I didn't play enough to really fool around with some of the new items and the balance changes, so I don't really have a lot to say on that. I never really had a problem with the items in the game, so that's that. Unless they like really messed up the items, I don't see me having an issue with that. Balance changes are always good. Moving on to the Korean translation drama. I didn't even know about this until I saw that this DLC had come out, and I looked at the reviews for the game, and there was mostly negative reviews for the game, and I was like, what the hell's that all about? They just dropped a new DLC. Is the new DLC trash? And I was like, what the hell's that about? They just dropped a new DLC. Is the DLC that bad? I looked at it before I bought it, and I was like, it looks pretty good. And then I went and looked at the recent reviews and to see why they were mostly negative. And for the most part, I'm getting a lot of third party information on this, so I'm definitely no expert on this. But from what I have read and seen, apparently the guys at Red Hook, I believe that's who makes this. Yeah, Red Hook. Got it right. The people at Red Hook wanted to make a Korean translation for the game, and someone had already made a Korean translation for the game that they had permission for to put on the marketplace that people were using at the time, but they wanted to make an official Korean thing. And the guys that made the mod for the translation offered up their translation for use for the official version. The Darkest Dungeons guys said no. They, for whatever reasons, some kind of legal reasons, they didn't want to use their version. They wanted to make an official version of the Korean translation. Apparently, it got tossed around a bunch of times, uh, and apparently they released it, and it was just a mess. Translations were off, localization was broken. Um, it was just a mess, and people got really, really, really upset about it, and bombarded the game with negative reviews. I understand the people who are upset's concern and why they're upset, but I feel like there was a massive overreaction here about just a simple translation issue. At the end of the day, it's Red Hook's decision to use whatever official version they want to use. If they did not want to use those guys' version, that is completely up to their choice. But at the same time, they also fucked up and botched their version of the Korean translation. So people are valid to be upset. Do I think it required a massive bombardment of negative reviews? No, but Red Hook is no stranger to being bombarded with negative reviews on their DLCs, so that's not news to them. Do I personally think it was a huge mistake? No, I really don't. I mean, they've already come out and tried to fix many of the issues that have happened with it. I think they're handling it very well, in my opinion. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's their decision, and what the players want don't really matter in terms of whatever legal things they're forced to be abided to. And it's really not that big of a deal. I'm sure it'll be fixed quickly. Um, we know the internet; they like to overreact, but that's what I know about the information that is available to me. If anybody else knows anything more about the matter, things that I've missed or whatnot, or if I'm just completely wrong, please tell me. I would love to know more about the situation. Um, as far as I'm concerned, the matter is mostly fixed already, and they're already working on localization issues and whatnot. And it's over with, and the DLC is decent. I enjoyed the shit out of it. I'm probably going to continue enjoying the shit out of it, and I think you should too. Go check it out. It's $5. It's Darkest Dungeon is one of my favorite games of all time. It's definitely worth it. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.